Brilliant moves is something that distinguish truly exceptional chess players from everybody else. Today I'm gonna show you the nature of those brilliant moves, how you can come up with it based on my game where I have made two of those moves, so let's get started. Played here as white, the game started with d4, knight f6, knight f3, nothing special yet, the queen's gambit kind of, and here instead of taking on c4, black played the move bishop to f5, which is already not one of the main lines. There are different ways to deal with it. I played queen to b3 and attacked the b7 pawn and put some pressure on the d5 pawn. Black played knight to d7, and you could see that the engine says knight c6 was more active because, well, it creates some interesting possibilities there, although of course you should be careful with queen takes b7 because the knight would be under attack, so it's not that simple. I took on d5. The problem with the knight to d7 move is that d5 pawn is no longer protected by the queen, and I'm using this fact, but my opponent wanted to be very aggressive from the very beginning of the game, so sacrificing the pawn here to get some activity, because, well, I have just removed my queen back to d1 to be very solid, to protect this pawn on d4 and to continue my development. So bishop d6, knight c3, castles and e4, and I thought, well, I have a perfect development here. I'm threatening e5. That is why my opponent immediately played bishop to b4, which is pinning the knight here and creating a threat of capturing the pawn on e4. Bishop to d3, defending the pawn and at the same time developing a new piece. So I'm trying to make one move with one piece, not more, because this way I can develop as many pieces as possible. One exception was this queen to b3 and then back. Well, I didn't really have any choice, the queen was under attack. So c5 and now d5. I'm trying to maintain my strong pawn center. I never want to take because that would leave this pawn alone on e4 and also allow my opponent to be very active. So you don't want to do that. d5, bishop went to g4, and I just castled here because I continue my development. If knight e5 happens, and that has been played, I just step back with my bishop to make sure that there is no pin here and everything is protected. But what I have missed here is that after takes, knight takes e4 is capturing the pawn, and then after bishop to b2, there is knight takes f3, and if I capture it twice, which was my desire, then I'm gonna have a bishop against the knight, potentially a very active one. The problem is, if I do that, there is a fork in the end of the day here, and I lose an exchange. So here I decided to take with a pawn. Yes, it's opening up the king, making it vulnerable, it's ruining my pawn structure, but I thought, well, I'm not losing the material, I'm still gonna have a powerful bishop sooner or later, and this king hopefully is gonna be secure on h1. Let's see if I have succeeded with that. My opponent played queen to g5 check, king to h1, the only move, and now knights to d2. You could see that that's a mistake because well, the knight is kind of clumsy here, and I have a very good way to deal with it. Please feel free to pause the video for a second and find it. So the right move is bishop to c1, and unfortunately I haven't played it. I didn't really want to go back, but in this particular case it's just winning some material. Although after queen takes d5, bishop takes, those pawns are so weak that it's not yet that clear. But still, that was the best way to go on. Well, I thought my rook is under attack, I have a perfect square for it on g1, so why not? And that leads us to the brilliant move that I have made here after queen takes d5, so please feel free to pause the video for a second and try to find it. Okay, hopefully I have found it. That's rook takes g7, sacrificing the rook here, and the problem is for black, if you take it with the king, there is c4, check from the bishop, and now we are winning the queen. But if the king goes to h8, it could have even been continued with another amazing rook sacrifice, rook to g8, which I unfortunately haven't played, although the move I did was also pretty good. The point is, if you take with a rook, it's clear, once again c4, but if you take with a king, then I have queen to g1. Notice how important it is that the king is on h1 square, no moves for king except for h8, and now once again c4, winning the queen. I have played c4 immediately here, which is still good after king h8 because I'm attacking the queen and I'm preparing some discover checks. But the drawback of this move is that it allows the queen's exchange. Here there is only one move for white that is still winning the game. unfortunately I haven't found it, so please try to find it yourself. Pause the video for a second. So the problem here with all of the discover checks like rook takes f7 or rook g3 is that this knight is gonna go to d4 and just block the whole diagonal. So the right move is bishop to f6. Now the knight has no way to make any difficulties for this bishop, and then the checks are still coming. Unfortunately, I have played rook to g5 instead, which is attacking the pawn on c5, and that is why I thought that knight d4 is a bad move, and that's true, but there is f6. I took here the pawn on c5, and after rook c8, of course I don't want to exchange. I played rook to f5, attacking the pawn and the knight. Knight goes to e5, that's the only way to save both the knight and the pawn. I played rook to g1, activating my final piece to the game and controlling this g open file. h6 has been played, and that allows a second brilliant move in this game, so feel free to pause the video for a second and try to find it. Okay, I hope you have found this one too. So the right move is rook takes f6, sacrificing yet another rook. That's the theme of this game, and the point is, if you take with a rook, which is probably the only move, bishop takes e5, it was so important to open up this diagonal because that's essential for this bishop. And now it's not even the fact that I can take the rook here back. It's just rook to g6 and I'm winning a whole piece because there is no way to defend the rook for the second time. So after king to h7 I just took it, and the rest is relatively simple, and I just converted it, and here black just resigned. So the main question is, how do you find those brilliant moves? Well, the secret formula to find the best move in every chess position is the following: checks, captures, threats, and active moves. So definitely here I'm starting looking for the checks, and rook takes g7 is the only check, and there is no surprise that it's a brilliant move because, well, if you are starting with the most active opportunities, chances are you're gonna find it. If you are starting with some normal moves, I don't know, rook g3, defending the pawn on f3, then the chances high that you're gonna miss the most active opportunity. So always start in this order. And then all I need to do is to calculate the variations. Rook takes g7, the rook is under attack, so the first thing you calculate, what's gonna happen if your rook is gonna be captured, king takes. And then the same question, do you have any checks? Well, queen to g1 would be a very passive check, the king will just escape, but c4 is opening up the diagonal for this bishop. It's a check, but at the same time it's a threat. So the best case scenario when you're combining check and capture, or check and threat, and so on. So that would just win the queen. I see that there is no way for black to save this queen, and then I understand that at least I'm not losing this queen, so the king has to go to h8, and then I'm thinking, okay, what could be the continuation here? The rook is hanging, the pawn on f3 is hanging, I can still go back to g3, but once again, that's a passive move, that's the last opportunity that I would calculate. And yeah, rook g8 is a check, which is another brilliant move here, which unfortunately I haven't made, but c4 is good enough because it's creating a threat, it's opening up the bishop, it's creating a threat of discover attack against the king, so it's an incredibly active move, and so that is the way you're looking for those brilliant moves. If you have liked this game, then this one will absolutely shock you because it's the best game I have ever played in my entire life. There was a double queen sacrifice, so definitely take a look at it.